Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review, and this time we're looking at the Sukenari AS Damascus Gyuto 210mm knife. This line of knives has a core steel of Aogami or Blue Paper Super reactive carbon steel from Hitachi. The heat treat's about 63 to 64 Rockwell, so they push that to kind of the higher end of the hardness scale for that steel. The construction is a multi-layered stainless cladding on top of that reactive carbon steel, and we'll get a closer look at it, but it's got a nice textured etched finish to it with a mirror polish, so we'll try not to get too many reflections in the video here. The weight on this knife is about 5.3 ounces, 149 grams. And these dimensions will vary just a little bit since these are handmade from knife to knife, but this is about 203 millimeters on the edge from tip to chin, and the overall length about 350 millimeters for this particular knife. The spine thickness coming out of the handle is about 2.7 millimeters above the chin or the back of the blade, and then the blade height on this is about 48 millimeters, so pretty generous. The handle's kind of a no-frills, reminds me of the Konosuke handles, but kind of a no-frills octagonal Howood buffalo horn ferrule handle, 3-inch circumference where the ferrule meets the wood, pretty standard size. The install is real nice on this. Fit and finish is quite good. There's a little bit of a step between the wood and the buffalo horn. You could smooth that out if you wanted to do that. The handle is pretty light, so that brings the balance point for this knife pretty close to a pinch grip, maybe just a touch behind depending on where your pinch is at. For me, it's almost like right on the money, so real neutral feel for this knife. And these have a beautifully done kind of continuous distal taper all the way down the blade to a pretty thin tip. We'll get a close-up look. Let's do that right now. The fit and finish on these are not inexpensive knives, but part of the cost goes to the high level of fit and finish. So they've got an etched layered Damascus pattern here and really nice mirror polish on these. You can see the core steel showing at the edge. The knife has embossed, pretty deeply embossed kanji on both sides of the blade, on the left side here and the right side on the other side of the blade. Again, mirror polished, easy to see that. Really nice work on the spine rounding and polishing, as well as the back of the blade, the choil into the neck. See if I can catch that. There we go for a still. And here's the spine shot. So again, you can see it's pretty much kind of a continuous distal taper all the way down to a really thin tip. Fit and finish, as I just mentioned, is excellent. Out of the box, I'll give it a pretty good 6 out of 10. These aren't the absolute thinnest knives at the edge. They're pretty thin, but they give you a little bit of meat at the edge. So these are not like full-on, crazy, full-blown lasers. So they've got just a little bit of a meat at the edge, and they give you kind of a nice, I guess, good performance, but without getting crazy in terms of the thinness at the edge. And they've got a fair amount of stiffness to the blade as well. Not super stiff because they're not real thick at the spine, but plenty of stiffness to make this thing go where you want through product. Let's look at it on the cutting board. These are just, as far as I can tell, I don't have any ZDP 189 Damascus ones at my disposal at this point in time, but near as I can tell from having done videos on those two, these are basically identical blades. Dimensions and everything, just your core steel is a reactive carbon steel, the Aogami Super versus the ZDP 189. So other than that, for me, they're pretty much close to identical, again, without having them side by side. So here's your profile. Given the kind of undersized 210 length on this and the fairly high height, you've still got a relatively low amount of belly on this and a little bit, kind of a sort of a flat spot towards the heel. They've got a little bit of a back belly here towards the heel, but it kind of flows nicely and a little bit of a flat spot to the heel, and then a gentle belly towards the tip, and I can get right in there pretty high before I start digging the tip in. I can get pretty high the way this thing is. The tip, very, very, very tip is kind of upswept just slightly to help with that. So I think this profile is pretty versatile, in my opinion. But beautifully crafted knife, good performer, obviously a real stunner looks-wise. So if the ZDP 189 doesn't sound like something you want to get into, maybe because of the sharpenability aspects of it, Here's a virtually identical blade and much easier to sharpen. Reactive carbon steel. There you have the Sukenari Aogami Super Damascus Gyuto 210mm knife.